In an age of endless war, when the Astronomicon flickers and the Cicatrix Maledictum scars the heavens, cults arise in and around the EO sector. Some are young and eager, seizing their opportunity in the wake of Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade. Others are ancient, with a tale as almost as old as the Imperium itself. This is one such cult, a savage warband from an age ago. They are a ravenous horde of bloodlusting humans and beastmen united by rage, devotion, and now a single creed: vengeance. To the wider Imperium, however old they are still nothing more than a feral cult, an infestation of cornate barbarians twisted with corruption and an insatiable desire for war. But those who have studied them know they are something older, a reborn civilization of slaughter ruled by a demon-possessed warlord. Yet for 10 millennia they have torn their way through the galaxy, conquered through blood and the taking of skulls. This is the horde known as the Red Letters. Hello everyone and welcome back to my little corner. I'm Kirk and today we're going to be taking a look at a chaos cult that has been burning its way into my homebrew sector of EO. We're going to be going over their lore and history, and then near at the end we're going to be taking a look at some minis I've kit bashed, so stay tuned for that. And if you do enjoy this, then please do like and subscribe, as I would love to get to 100 subscribers, and leave a comment down below too. I want to know what you're doing, I want to know your kit bashes, your conversions, and your own homebrew ideas. So yeah, thanks for all the support guys, and let's get into the video. Khorne, a commander of the Imperial Army's Auxilia, loyal to the newly assigned War Master under order of the Emperor, but tied to the Word Bearers, found himself trapped in the void between warp storms for 3 months. His men starving and slowly going mad with visions of symbols and strange iconography. Something in the void was calling to them. It is said that Khorne's ship came across a ruined void cruiser of unknown origin. Drifting lifelessly, split open, its metallic guts spewing into the void. All agreed that the ship should be investigated, so they approached with caution. The boarding party soon realised that there were no survivors to be found, only bodies and blood. Hundreds if not thousands lay dead, having clearly been killed by some form of Xenos weaponry. Yet a faint thump, like the beating of a heart, echoed from somewhere within the belly of the ship. Whispers growing in their heads, speaking of glory and power. They would track its source to a dark and unremarkable passage, strewn with body parts, blood and viscera. At the other end of this passage, sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, was the corpse of a champion in crimson armour. Like a grim spectator to the bloodshed before him, he had clearly died from his wounds, dragging himself to this final resting place. Yet upon his head, the focus of all attention, gleaming in the light of a sparking wire, a skull-faced mask of bronze and brass, dark with dried blood and decorated with horns and tusks. On its forehead, an unknown rune that looked to pulse with every beat. Khorne and his men approached, but in the rhythm of their walk they knew only one of them would take this gift. Only one of them would leave this hallway alive. He heard the echo of millions chanting his name and knew it would be him. When he finally placed the mask upon his face, the warp would erupt around the two ships, corrupting those within. Battles erupted as men filled with madness and rage, blood-hungry, turned to butchering each other. Those that fell were feasted upon. Those who survived devoted themselves to this new lord. A throne was made in his name of the skulls of those first victims, and the first, horned emperor, began his reign. When they returned to find the galaxy in flames, they would realise years, not months, had passed, and now changed. They would not come to serve Horus or the Emperor. No, they would return for blood. Under Khorne's banner, known as the Chains of Wrath, the corrupted forces of the Horned Emperor tore through the void, burning world after world, most famously aiding their old allies in the Word Bearers and new allies in the World Eaters during the Shadow Crusade, helping the Astartes by engaging the Ultramar Auxilia on the flanks. As the heresy came to a close, drawn by the promise of blood, war and skulls, they made their way to Terra, landing in those final days to aid in the carnage and the charge of the Great Walls. But it was not their day. As the traitor legions were driven back into the Eye of Terror, the Horned Emperor refused to flee. Gathering as many to his will as possible, he led his armies into the far reaches of space, where the Imperium's vengeance could not catch up with them. There, his warships clashed with fringe Imperial battle groups. Red-armoured zealots and beastmen alike poured from boarding pods, slaughtering crews within, butchering all who stood against them, and enslaving the rest. For centuries they would roam the outer ring of the galaxy, raiding and pillaging. With each new raid, more skulls were taken, more blood spilled. The host of the Horned Emperor grew. In M33, Khorne's horde butchered the shrine world of Aravis Prime, leaving 8 billion corpses arranged into vast runes visible from orbit. Then in M35, it is said that Wrath pledged his allegiance to a greater warlord, and agreed to fight under his banner in his own Shadow Crusade. Wrath proclaimed it would be a skull harvest. This warlord would enjoy the phrase, and go on to use it many times, drawing more of Khorne's hosts to the war. Wrath's forces would prove their strength, fighting on worlds such as Dijas and Calamari, before turning on his allies in ritual betrayal, slaughtering uncounted numbers of fellow Khorne worshippers with seeming ease, halting the crusade and slaughtering the warlord. Those who did not bow to Khorne died. They would reappear en masse, going by the name the Horned Reavers, ravaging worlds in the north, defeating and losing to Valhallan, Vostrian and Mordian forces on a number of occasions, joining in at least one Black Crusade and butchering the world of Scarthus. Then again, in M36, near the galaxy's core, it is claimed that Wrath grew a taste for psychers and personally devoured the bodies of hundreds of victims, bloating in power. The cult would seemingly reach its peak sometime after the 9th or 10th Black Crusade, with their greatest conflicts in fact being against other Khorne forces, such as the Skull Takers and the Chain Axes, with the former being their greatest rivals and the latter being either exterminated or folded into the Horned Emperor's host. For the next 3 millennia, Wrath would sail through the galaxy in an endless nomadic war, at some point changing their name again to the Beasts of Gore. It is not known how many died, but what is known is that in the wake of these conflicts, Wrath's forces were greatly diminished. After a series of defeats, they would retreat to a small world on the underside of the galactic plane. Little did they know what would be awaiting for them. Tracking their movement were the forces of the neighbouring Io sector, Sindramundi, Iskareth, Typhon and Emberlin, along with Mordian Guard and the Astartes of the Obsidian King's chapter. Landing his men en masse to face down their foe, the warband would engage immediately with the Imperial forces, drenching the planet in fire and blood, whilst Khorne himself would await his perfect moment to strike aboard his flagship. Yet he would never make it. Soon after, the cultists found themselves boarded with reports of Astartes cutting their way to the bridge. Enraged, Khorne would look to meet his enemy, and despite effort, his body was torn apart by bolter fire only minutes later, ending the Horned Emperor's reign. As a last effort to take the Astartes with them, the cultists would destroy their own ship, exploding it, fragmenting into pieces, many falling to the world below. In the centuries after, a number of people would arise, claiming to be the Horned Emperor, though all are believed to be false and were short-lived. One is thought to have been a Catachan warrior of great renown, whose name and deeds were completely purged after his fall to chaos. Another led a force known as the Bleeding Brass in the 12th Black Crusade, but largely, for more than 2,000 years, the Horned Emperor was believed dead. Then, in late M41, upon a quiet world of rolling hills and rocky mountains, known as Virith 9, where the skies weep under a red sun and the rain smells of iron, a young boy is said to have come across the mask. He was a tribesman, and though young, not even a teenager, he was already a keen hunter of great skill. And just like in the myths of old, he is said to have been drawn to it by the sound, much like a beating heart. Parting the leaves to find some form of religious altar in the foliage of ancient stone, and nesting on top a horned mask of bronze, he reached out and wrapped his fingers around it, caressing it gently and whispering to it before placing it upon his face. Without warning, the mask fused to his skin with a hiss. he shrieked and fell to his knees as the air burned crimson. Lightning struck in the forest. Beasts and his fellow tribesmen fled in fear. The shriek turned into screaming, then twisted and turned into a roar, an unholy bellow that pierced through the warp itself. Then there was silence. What would come to exit the trees later that day was a boy no more, but a monster in a boy's skin. He would return to overthrow his Kumra or tribal leader, butchering him in an open duel, eating his heart and taking his skull. Enforcing his will, his tribe grew strong, quickly turning to war, with many who opposed him falling victim to a tale of his youthful appearance and underestimating him. As madness and visions of power through bloodshed began to plague the tribes, the shamans began to brand the people with runes using burned brass, or carve into their flesh marks that bled but did not heal. Each mark a letter, each scar a word. They performed rituals, sending out messages into the void, proclaiming this boy to be Wrath reborn, and proclaiming eternal vengeance on those that had ended him before. Men and beastmen alike flocked to the new herd, and together they conquered, though come to be known, by Imperial forces at least, as the Red Letters. Warriors forged Khorne's skull masks to imitate that of their leader, from scrap and bone, hammering, nailing, and screwing them into their faces, others implanting the horns directly into their skulls and covering their faces with cloth. Those who survived claimed to hear the Horned Emperor himself whispering in their minds, promising strength, rage, and an eternity of strength as blood ran down their faces. Through sacrifice, shamanic psykers, twisted by the war, learned to open portal gates to other worlds, unleashing their warriors onto new planets, where once they would use the void and use the stars, now they would simply walk, and where the Red Letters walk, worlds burn. Entire cities have been found silent, their people slaughtered to a man, on worlds vastly distant to each other, mutilated corpses once again arranged into glyphs visible from orbit. Sigils of blood and devotion as this new lord conquers through the stars. They infiltrate deep hives, burn through forests, swarm bastions and fortresses, all in an effort to hunt down Wrath's killers, and the skulls of the Obsidian King's chapter. Little do they know the Astartes' fate, and surely there is little this boy could do if he ever found them. The Red Letters hunt regardless. While some claim Wrath was a man and others a beast to begin with, an auxiliary by the name of Khorne, loyal to the Ultramarines, appears to be a legitimate figure in those final days of the Crusade. However, whilst not an exact match, it could refer to the same person. Whether the myth of the mask is real remains to be seen. Some say that Wrath was never one man, but instead was a series of people all along, who all wore the mask and took the same identity, being possessed by a same being. Fragmentary Ordo Malleus reports give conflicting information that the mask itself may be a relic constructed by a lost colony of people long before the heresy. Others that it was Eldarian origin. Some, however, question the entire origin story completely, claiming it was possibly one of 8 vessels of brass created by the Wordbearers and spread amongst loyalist followers during the Shadow Crusade, in an effort to bind blood letters with mortals and sow chaos in the Ultramar sector. To the cult, the truth is meaningless. They know their god speaks, and the galaxy will bleed in its glory. Imperial records have not yet acknowledged the possibility that this is the same entity reborn, or simply another fraud living off his fame. Yet the signs are there, and in 2,000 years, a cult fighting in Wrath's name has not seen such a gathering of support, has not set so many stars ablaze, and has not bled as many worlds as this young newcomer. After joining in the 13th Black Crusade, this boy, now only in his mid-teens, has seen more bloodshed than most will see in a million lifetimes, and in its wake, after burning through Eo's neighbouring sector, vengeance couldn't be closer. As through warp portals, they now fall on Io herself, in what is becoming known as the Burning of Emberlin. Cities lay in ruin, and the streets run red with gore as bodies pile in its defence. Eo's command claim they are unwilling to see their sector fall to the blood-hungry will of an insane child, possessed or not. But without the aid of the Astartes, will it be enough? EO will find out. However, the cost will be high, and it will be paid in blood, skulls, and the screams of endless war. As the legend of Wrath rises once more, blood-hungry laughter echoes across the void like the tolling of war drums. The red letters spill from the gates, their chants blotting out Vox traffic, their banners slick with the blood of saints and sinners alike, spelling only one word for those that stand against them. And that word is death. Well, that's it for the lore, guys. I hope you liked it and I hope you like the minis. If you want to make these for yourself and join Wrath and his red letters, then to do this I used the darkoath marauders kit and a few Felgor ravagers, but then swapped out the heads and the weapons. The melee weapons were all swapped out for chain weapons from the jakhals box and a couple from the gormongers box for kill team. The skulls and the Khorne symbols you see on their waists and stuff, these all come from those boxes too. As for the heads and the guns, they're all from the Chaos Cultist box, with the exception of the leader here, who basically is the Gormonger on the box. I just thought the pose really fitted well with this Darkoath Marauder, so I used it. I think it looks really cool, and he's sort of supposed to be the kid, if you know what I mean, the boy. He is Wrath Reborn. And that's it, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are. Like, share, comment, and please do sub, as it would be great to get to 100 subscribers. Let me know all your world building ideas and kit bashes in the comments below. Let me know what you're doing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.